I'm back in the old standby training area. I haven't been here in a while. I think once my stress fracture sealed up and once it became clear that the kidney issues aren't necessarily, though they're not getting better, they don't seem to be getting any worse. I started doing a lot more fitness training, walking and running on a track, playing a lot more basketball, and just focusing on the cardiovascular because I didn't want to put too much weight on my legs while the stress fracture healed up even more. You know, I did little bits here and there, but I didn't really do any serious hiking, and I did nothing with any weight on my back for a while. This is my first hike in maybe a month with actual weight on my back, and I've been doing, I think I'm about 6 miles now. And just look at all these flowers. It's so pretty. Everything's starting to bloom. It's looking great. We've had a lot of rain on and off, so the forest had exploded while I was out. You know, it was starting to get a few leaves here and there, but now we're just looking at straight up foliage, and it's gorgeous. It's nice to be out here, nice to be moving. You know, I was doing probably, I don't know, 8 miles on average for the last month, but it was much shorter duration because, again, no weight, and I was on a track. So, I mean, my pace was really much shorter than it is in the woods. But my last track day was actually yesterday. I was doing the outdoor track around this huge park that's around the Y that we go to, and it was fun. There was tons of sun. It was nice and cool. I jogged a few miles. It was great. I've actually kind of started to strangely like running. I don't know why. Well, pretty much all my life, I've hated running for no reason. What I mean, literally running just to run. I love playing basketball. I love running during that. I used to love playing football when I was a young man, or a teenager, and loved running during that. But just running to run, always hated it. Could not even run a full mile without having to stop unless, you know, I was doing something with a goal in mind. So being a jogger was just never part of my life. But now, after walking like a mile or two, I find that I want to start running. I don't know why. And I'll run for, you know, half a mile or more, and then I'll stop and go down to about a 14-minute mile pace of speed walking. And after, 10 minutes of that, I want to run again. So I think in some ways taking the break to let my stress fracture heal and to let my kidneys kind of at least reach some sort of equilibrium where nothing's getting any worse anyway. Oddly enough, it seems like my cardiovascular fitness kind of amped itself up during that break. And yesterday I was noticing this as I was running and not tiring, and I just kept running and kept running. And it reminded me of how, well, that combined with the fact that I saw a bunch of little kids being taught how to ride bicycles by their parents. And there's a huge parking lot in the park that's behind our Y, where there's a bunch of tennis courts and pickleball courts and soccer fields, just a huge multi-purpose outdoorsy area. And the parking lot that accompanies that is usually very, very empty. So yesterday, being Mother's Day, I guess, these parents brought their little kids out, 5 years old or so, I'm guessing by how small they were, and they were teaching them how to ride bikes. And seeing those kids riding their bikes, trying to learn anyway, and me suddenly exploding into running the last few weeks for some reason, reminded me of how when I was a little boy, on my 7th birthday, I got a bicycle, my very first bicycle. I don't remember what brand it was. All I remember is that it was blue, yellow, and red. And I thought it was the absolute coolest thing in the world because, you know, as a Midwestern boy in the 1980s, I was obsessed with Superman. And as such, anything that had blue, red, and yellow on it was clearly associated with Superman. So my bike was clearly a super bike. But I loved it. Loved it right from the start. Could not ride it. If you've followed my channel at all, you know that I was born with a lot of serious deformities in my hands and arms. And my entire childhood was spent in casts and splints and having my arms reconstructed over and over. And the right arm is about 6 to 8 inches shorter than the left. So even without any casts, that would pose a real challenge for a little kid learning how to ride a bike. But put that together with the casts, and it just wasn't happening. Like, I literally could not do it. Even with training wheels on, I could not learn. It was garbage. I could not do it. And so the bike went into the garage, kind of hung up on the side, and when my friends and I would go to the pond or go play basketball or whatever, I would run beside their bikes. They would ride their bikes, and there would be little me running alongside them. And I hated it. The only reason I could do it was because we were going somewhere. And that went on for, I don't know, maybe a year. And ironically, this is the same time period where I had started playing basketball. And I think I've mentioned in previous videos that when I started playing ball, it took me a year and a half to make one basket. Seriously, because I had so many various surgeries, so many casts on my hands and splints and all that shit. So I could never do it. And I had a great friend who would tolerate it. Like, he didn't say a word. I'm sure he was happy to always beat me, but you can't find any enjoyment out of beating somebody who simply cannot play. But he never made a big deal out of it. He still wanted to play. And so at the same time as not being able to make any of these baskets, I also could not ride a bike. And didn't even try. I tried it the first day or two. It would not happen. So I put it aside. And every day I wanted to, but I couldn't figure it out. Every day I wanted to make a basket, but I couldn't make it work with my hands. So again, fast forward about a year, and one day we were going to the pond, I think, to catch fish, and there was this huge box turtle that we always wanted to take back to the house. We wanted to get a wagon and fill it with some water, put a turtle in it, and bring it home and put it in his little sister's baby pool. We thought that would be the coolest thing, the beginning of some sort of reptile zoo. I don't know, we were stupid kids. But he was like, oh, we're taking off to go get the turtle today. And I was like, oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, hello. Like, hold on, I need to get my shoes tied and everything. And he says, no, we're not waiting for you. So they just took off. And there's no way I was going to be able to catch them. And for some bizarre reason, I decided I'm going to grab that bike that I haven't ever learned how to ride. And I just took off on it. My parents were there, they saw it happen, and they were kind of confused how I could even do it, because they knew that I didn't know how to ride one. And I knew I didn't know how to ride one, but I wasn't going to be left behind. And somehow I ended up figuring it out on the fly. I didn't fall, I didn't crash. I don't know how it really worked out, but I somehow figured it out in the moment. And within maybe a month or two, I also made my first basket. And this pattern kind of carried on in my life. I taught myself how to draw when I was a little kid. And, the same issues happened with my hands and casts. It was really hard to maneuver pencils and all that stuff. But I was, for a little kid with near legal blindness and constant reconstructions on his hands, I drew better than the average kid with no problems. But, again, I was self-taught, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And I kind of sketched for a few years. Then in high school, I kind of put it away. I wasn't super good at it. I was better than most, but not, supremely talented. So I put it away. I still loved it, but I just didn't do it for a while. And then in my 20s, I managed to pick it up again just out of boredom, and all I had at the time was paper and pencil, and I was locked away somewhere that I won't get into, and I just started drawing. And what came out was exponentially better than anything I'd ever drawn before. I don't know what happened. Something about the skills, just like the bicycle and the basketball, kind of fermented in my mind until it was, fine wine. You put nasty old grape juice in a bucket for a while and just leave it alone. Eventually, something good happens, apparently. I don't know, I don't like wine, but to those people who do, that's, I guess, how you do it. And that's how this worked out. I've had the same thing with writing, where I worked on my school newspaper in high school a little bit and was always a fantastic writer. I just have a natural ability with the English language anyway, and especially written language. It gives me a second to actually think about it. I sound like a brain-dead moron sometimes when I speak, but when I write and actually have a few seconds, I can string together eloquence that certainly outpaces my verbal skills. So that was, always fun for me. And I even did a little bit of newspaper work in college. I wrote papers for other guys that I went to school with for money, obviously. But I really didn't do anything with it after that. I just kind of stopped writing, didn't really think about it. Put it away for years and years. And then at one point where I basically had nothing else to do in life, I started writing again. And within, maybe a year or two, I had an award from the Poetry Foundation of America. Probably about 5 years more. And I had my first published poetry and short stories in some university literary magazines. And then again, I put it away again for a few years. I just kind of lost interest. I was really sick for several years, and so I just kind of toyed with projects but didn't really focus. And then last fall, I brought it out again. I was still really depressed from the way the trail failure happened last spring, and I just needed something to get out of my head. So I started writing again. And holy shit, these breaks, everything just magnifies. I don't know how it works. I don't know what the mechanism is, but I'm on the verge of putting up a website with probably a couple dozen short stories, some longer stuff close to novellas, and just kind of putting it out there. I'm not, I decided, I think I mentioned in a previous video, I'm not going to be publishing with traditional publications, at least for the foreseeable future. I really hate the commodification of art, and I'm just not going to do that. And I'm not even going to do indie pressing, because to even do that, you have to use places like Amazon, and I don't want to do that. I don't think Bezos deserves a penny off of work that I do. So I decided that what I'm going to do is put everything up for free online. People can read whatever they want, as much as they want. Someday I might start producing books. When I do some longer stuff, I might actually make the books myself or have them printed uniquely for buyers, because that makes it a direct artist to patron sort of relationship and cuts out anybody else who isn't entirely necessary. But until then, the new explosion in my life, the writing, is going to be put up for free. And if people want to donate, I will have some sort of mechanism on the website, like Patreon, or I don't know, Ko-Fi. I don't know if that's a real thing or if I'm mispronouncing some other real thing. But I have human needs like anybody else that require me to be a reluctant and grudging participant in the capitalist system. So I do need money now and then, but I don't need to write to make money, or to have the money I need to live. That my needs are taken care of. So I write because I want to say something. And if I say something, I want people to hear it. And they don't have to pay to hear it. But if they want to donate just to the fact that I am an artist who has something of value that's going to be available, then there will be mechanisms for that on the website. And I will be filling in more information about exactly, the address of the website, hopefully within the next week or so, as I get all this stuff ironed out. But it's late spring now, or mid-spring, I guess, and I feel like I'm finally fully coming out of the funk from last spring. That was such a gut punch that even when I thought I was coming out of it, a few times over the last several months, either other events in the daily life kind of knocked me back in, like the stupid stress fracture, and finding out that there was a kidney stone stuck between my kidney and my bladder, just waiting to tear me open. These things knocked me back again. But I think getting really thrown into fitness in this last month has given me a little bit more peace, where things really bum me out on the surface. I'm a very reactionary guy. If something great's happening right now, I'm really happy right now. If something horrible's happening right now, I'm really upset right now. But I think as long as I stay pretty active, more days than not, it kind of evens the playing field of my emotions. I don't know if that works like that for a lot of other people. I know it does, and studies show that exercise helps with mood. But, I'm sure there are some people who will not respond to exercise unless they are also, taking pharmaceutical assistance. But for people like me who are just snippy little bastards, we need to get out here, we need to get in the sun, and we need to do it consistently. And for me, it's working. Yesterday, when I was running around that track, there's this road that runs all the way through the park area behind the Y, and there was a guy and his, girlfriend or wife in a Cybertruck. And they were driving real slow. They had their windows rolled down, and they were blasting their music. And the third time that he went by, I pointed and laughed because, what kind of pathetic loser has a Cybertruck? But I did it so melodramatically that he noticed it. And he stopped. And he got out and he said, "What the fuck you say?" And I said, "I didn't say anything because I was too busy laughing at how pathetic you are to articulate it in words." And he, of course, called me a ugly little cripple and hurled some homophobic slurs at me. And his wife was like yelling at him to get back in the truck. Wife or girlfriend, I don't know. But eventually, he gets back in his pathetic little death trap on wheels. And as he's about to start the engine again and leave, I hear his wife or girlfriend tell him, "I told you not to buy this thing." And so I couldn't stop laughing again. I mean, just, take the politics out of it, and you still have a pathetic piece of shit that costs over $100,000 and that you're only buying for ego because you're never going to use it for any functional purpose. And then you add on top of that the fact that an unabashed Nazi is manufacturing it. You're going to wear that badge out in public? I'm going to laugh at you. That's how that works. So it was funny, but it also brought up that, there's going to be a lot of shit in day-to-day life that's either going to make you really irritated or give you an opportunity to decide to laugh. Because I could be pissed off that he called me names and pissed off that some loser is wasting so much money when that money could be used in so many better ways. But it was funny. And I chose to laugh instead of hey, look, there was a squirrel. Wow. Must be a tubby squirrel. I can still hear him. But I think maybe had it been the winter or last fall, I might have gotten pretty irritated by the whole thing. But being able to keep consistent on activity right now and feeling my body starting to respond to that consistency. And I don't even think that it's responding to the physical actions, like where, muscles are tightening and getting stronger and everything's getting more secure. I think it's just responding to the fact that I'm kind of consistent now, not just in the fitness aspect, but also my writing schedule has kind of solidified. I have an idea of where I'm going with that. I have decided next year's trip is going to be a redo. I'm not just going to pick up from Hot Springs. I'm going to actually start again, because as arbitrary as it is and how meaningless it really is, what you call a thru hike, I do personally consider a thru hike beginning to end within the same year. So if I were to start again at Hot Springs, where I stopped last year, and then go to the end, that would not be a thru hike. So, to me, everyone needs to do what they need to do. But for me, I would not feel good about using that term if I didn't do it the way I define it. So, having all these things kind of a little more secure in my mind is making even annoyances like belligerent assholes easier to swallow. So I know I've kind of covered a lot of topics right now, but it's been a while since I've had a fairly long diatribe video. But hopefully it was at least modestly entertaining enough for you to listen. And if you wanted to, you could always mute it and just look at the pretty forest. I think sometimes it'd be nice to see somebody do a video beginning to end of the AT, every step, without any commentary, without anyone around them. Just, months of video of walking in total silence. I would watch it. Talk to you later.